OCD is absolutely awful. Hello and welcome to the video. A little warning, I have a tendency to speak slowly, and I also have a tendency to trip over my words when I'm speaking. I don't know why I do this, but I do, and I apologize. When I was about 16 or 17, I don't remember, but I remember starting to wash my hands like crazy and having all of these thoughts in my head and having a lot of repetitive thoughts in my head and having a lot of thoughts that were just coming in without ever asking to come in. They weren't invited, and yet they invited themselves. One of the worst was the idea of being infected with something or made sick. It's still something that I struggle with to this day, though it's much better than it used to be. I would often find myself having to go and wash my hands over and over again until my hands were dry and cracked and bleeding. And it was just awful. Even now I still wash my hands far more than I probably should, though it kind of came in handy with COVID. But it isn't and hasn't been the only thing that has annoyed me or made my life a misery. One of the biggest things for me has been OCD around the idea of mortality. And the funny thing with OCD, and it's not funny in the slightest, but it can be just the smallest spark that can cause, I don't know, a kind of chain reaction. Like someone saying something very, very small can stick in your mind for not only days or weeks or months, but even years. And it isn't just the case that they cause a little bit of anxiety, but they can go on to create massive panic attacks. I remember with one thing, I went to a club actually with a friend, because I used to go to the punk clubs with a bunch of my friends, and we really enjoyed it. And we would all sit there and dance and sing together. But after this one incident where someone had said something, it kept on playing in my mind, and it was just causing the most awful anxiety. And I ended up going home. I ended up having to go to the doctor and everything. It was so awful. It really was awful. And it's just strange how it can latch on to such silly things. I remember seeing someone throw a cigarette, and I kept on ruminating on the fact that I didn't put it out, and that because I didn't put it out, it might have caused a forest or bushfire. And so I was panicking, thinking that I had essentially, by not doing anything, caused this fire to occur, even though no fire actually occurred. If you hear some sounds in the background, that's my son playing. He plays very loudly, but he enjoys himself, so I let him get on with it. Now, I myself come from a family of people with all sorts of neurodiversity. So there are people with autism, there are people with ADHD, and my cousin actually also has OCD, but his OCD is quite different to mine. His OCD is often about things such as the safety of the house, so he will check the door and he will check the oven to make sure the gas isn't on, and he will also do things like check people's shoes to make sure they haven't stepped in poo. And he will also wash himself multiple times during the day. Whereas I don't necessarily feel like that. I often just wash my hands, though I did used to check the doorknobs inside the house. So I would go past the door, I would check the door. Go past the door, check the door, every time. And oftentimes, when I am leaving the house, I have to check the door to make sure the door is shut when I leave. But I'm pretty fortunate now that it doesn't affect me as badly, so a lot of times I don't even check it again. I suppose I've been lucky that the self-therapy, I suppose, that I've been doing, it's essentially the same as what the experts recommend, but it seems to have been quite effective. I still struggle with OCD though, if I'm honest, and every now and again something new will pop up and I'm like, oh, hello darkness, my old friend. Like, I still, in the evening, just before I'm falling asleep, am reminded of my own mortality almost every night, and it is really frustrating. I also suspect myself of being autistic, and that is not necessarily based upon the OCD. This is more so a case of something that I've been analyzing for the past year and a half or so, especially after my cousin was diagnosed with autism, and also my nephew has autism, and so it's definitely something in my family, as well as ADHD, though I'm not entirely sure about my own relationship to ADHD yet. And because I'm not diagnosed with either autism nor ADHD yet, I don't take the position that I am definitely either of those things yet. But I have a fairly good idea that I probably am autistic based upon all of the different things that I experience in my day-to-day life. But the only things I've ever been diagnosed with really are OCD, dysthymia, and social anxiety, which is funny because I don't know that I actually have social anxiety. I mean, I know if I get up on stage and start speaking, I feel very anxious. So maybe in that sense, yes. But when it comes to things like walking through a crowd of people, I don't feel like people are looking at me and judging me. I feel like I'm being drowned. And that feels very different. It's like, I have to get out of here. I have to escape or I'm going to die. Versus everyone's looking at me. What shall I do? Oh, Lord. So it's a very different feeling. And it's interesting too, because I thought, because I'd been diagnosed with OCD and dysthymia and social anxiety, that it must have been a combination of those things that was causing me to feel like I was drowning in crowds, and it was that which caused me to feel like I wanted to explode or run away whenever I heard people chewing or eating or loud sounds or smells that are just too strong for me, because basically every smell is too strong for me. But I didn't know what any of these things were, in all honesty. But I am grateful in some ways for having had the internet and being able to explore these things, especially OCD, and how to help myself to manage it. I'm now on a fairly low dose of SSRIs. I'm taking Lexapro at the moment, but I don't know that I truly need it that much anymore, because I do a lot of my own sort of, I guess, I don't know, it's like exposure therapy or something. Basically what I do is I will say to myself, yep, that's what I am, or yep, that's what's going to happen. Almost like trying to tell the OCD that it's right. You know, what you're saying is absolutely correct. Yes, I am a horrible person. Yes, I am planning to jump off a cliff, whatever it is. Yes, I am being blasphemous. Yes, I do have 15 diseases that are going to kill me yesterday. And alongside that, I often say, yep, hello, Mr. OCD, I can hear you. And I find that that's actually really helpful, rather than trying to run away from it, rather than trying to find a method to alleviate the anxiety. I almost force myself to feel more anxiety, which sounds like a really masochistic thing to do, but honestly, I do feel like it has helped. That's not to say that I'm perfectly free from OCD. I'm not, by any means. But I definitely feel like I'm in a better place now, which is good, because when I was a teenager, I was up Schitt's Creek, and not only did I not have a paddle, I didn't have a boat, so I was just floating, and next to me there was all pieces of poo. It was awful. I hated being a teenager. I really did. I made so many mistakes. I did so many stupid things, and I didn't understand anything that was going on in my life, and I didn't understand people, and I just wanted to, I suppose, not be teased, and that didn't really go very well. But that's probably a chat for another day, really. But OCD has really been quite burdensome. So I'm curious, has anybody else who was listening to this had any experiences with OCD, and what sort of things affect you? If I were to go through many of the things that affect me, I'd say most of it's pure O, so it's mostly just obsessions, and a lot of the obsessions are strange. Now, I'm not religious at all, but I have had a lot of religious style OCD, and I have had OCD related to like fears about being homosexual and stuff like that. That doesn't affect me anymore. It used to, but it doesn't anymore because I suppose I've just gone through everything with it, and now I'm just like, oh, whatever. But when I was younger, it used to like really, really affect me. I've had issues with cleanliness and stuff like that. I've had issues where the OCD has told me that I was going to hurt someone. And it's like, no, I don't want to hurt anyone. No. Again, it's just one of those things like, oh, your brain doesn't want that? Well, here you go. Have some images. It's frankly really, really annoying. And another one that I have with this is the sort of worrying about being ill or having cancer or, thinking that I've got an aneurysm or something like that. And so I'm often end up going to the doctors because I'm like, okay, I want you to scan my aorta because I think I'm going to have an aortic aneurysm. And this is literally something that happened. I went and I had a ultrasound and the doctor said, your aorta is fine. I'm like, yay, no aortic aneurysm. At least today. Who knows what's going to happen next week? But it's exhausting. It really is exhausting. So I really don't wish OCD on anyone. It's not a nice thing to have to deal with. And I feel like that, on top of the fact that I feel like I've also got autism, accounts for a lot of the craziness that I've experienced in my life, and probably a lot of the constant feelings of imposter syndrome with basically everything and anything in my life. But I suppose that's all for another day. Anyway, if you've watched this video and you enjoyed it and you found it interesting, etc., please let me know, because it would be lovely to know that I've maybe helped somebody, or maybe at least helped someone to know that they're not alone. That would be nice. And I could, in the future, do some sorts of tips about what I do to avoid rumination and stuff like that. Not that I'm perfect at it. I'm by no means perfect, but maybe it could be helpful for someone. Anyway, thank you for watching, and until the next one, take care.